Welcome to a journey through ice and time. Let yourself settle in, get comfortable, and allow your breathing to slow as we explore the quiet, frozen world of glaciers. These ancient giants have been shaping our planet for millennia, and tonight, their stories will carry you gently into sleep. Imagine, if you will, a river. Not a river of water, rushing and splashing over rocks, but something far more patient, far more ancient. Glaciers are moving rivers of ice, flowing so slowly that you could never see their movement with your eyes. Yet they do move, imperceptibly, relentlessly, sliding downhill under the tremendous weight of their own frozen mass. Year after year, century after century, they creep forward, sometimes just inches annually, sometimes several feet, carving the earth beneath them with the patience that only ice can possess. This movement is a kind of meditation, a slow, eternal dance with gravity that has continued for ages beyond human reckoning. And speaking of ages, some of the ice locked within these glaciers is unfathomably old. Picture this: some glacier ice is over 100,000 years old. Let that number settle in your mind like snowflakes drifting down. 100,000 years. This ice formed long before human civilization ever existed, before the first cities were built, before agriculture, before written language. When this ice first crystallized from snow, our ancestors were still living in small groups, just beginning their long journey toward becoming who we are today. This ice is a witness to time we can barely comprehend, holding within it the secrets of a world we never knew. Now, you might think that glaciers only exist in the most remote polar regions, at the very ends of the earth. But here's something wonderful: glaciers exist on every continent. Yes, even Africa. High atop Mount Kilimanjaro, near the equator, glaciers cling to the summit, defying the tropical heat below. In Antarctica, of course, vast ice sheets cover an entire continent. In South America, glaciers cascade down from the Andes. In Asia, the Himalayas hold enormous ice fields. Europe's Alps, North America's Rockies, even Oceania's New Zealand, all home to these frozen giants. They are everywhere, watching over our world from the highest, coldest places. If you've ever seen a photograph of a glacier's deep interior, you may have noticed something magical. Thick glacier ice glows with an intense, ethereal deep blue, a color so vivid it almost doesn't seem real. This isn't a trick of photography. It's the result of something beautifully simple: light absorption. As light penetrates the dense, compressed ice, the ice absorbs the longer wavelengths, the reds and yellows, and reflects back the shorter wavelengths of blue. The thicker and denser the ice, the more intense this blue becomes, until it seems almost supernatural, like glimpses into another world entirely. Imagine standing in an ice cave, surrounded by walls that glow with this celestial blue light, and feel yourself sinking deeper into relaxation. But not all glaciers shine with this brilliant blue. Some glaciers appear black, their surfaces darkened by rock debris that covers them like a protective blanket. This debris comes from the mountains around them, broken off by the freeze-thaw cycle, tumbled down onto the glacier's surface. Over time, enough rock accumulates that the glacier itself seems to disappear beneath a layer of stone. These rock-covered glaciers can be deceptive. You might walk across one thinking you're on solid ground, never realizing that beneath your feet lies hundreds of feet of ancient ice. Our fascination with ice extends beyond our own planet. Scientists have discovered that fossil glaciers exist on Mars. Using radar technology, they've detected ancient ice formations buried beneath the Martian surface, remnants of a time when the red planet was wetter and colder. These Martian glaciers tell us that ice's story isn't limited to Earth alone. Throughout our solar system, ice shapes worlds, preserves histories, and holds clues to the nature of planets we're only beginning to understand. As you drift toward sleep, imagine these distant fields of ice on an alien world, silent and still under pink Martian skies. Throughout human history, glaciers have captured our imagination in profound ways. Glaciers appear in myths and legends from cultures around the world. Many cultures believed these immense ice formations were alive, or sacred, or both. Indigenous peoples living near glaciers often saw them as powerful spirits or deities. In some traditions, glaciers were the dwelling places of gods. In others, they were ancient beings themselves, breathing and moving with slow, purposeful intent. These beliefs weren't so far from the truth. In a way, glaciers do live, do breathe in their fashion, do move with purpose. They're not conscious, but they are dynamic, responsive to their environment, growing and shrinking with the seasons and the climate. Here's something remarkable about these frozen giants. Ice sheets act as climate archives, preserving Earth's history in layers like the pages of an ancient book. Each year's snowfall becomes a new layer, and as this snow compresses into ice over centuries, it locks in information about that moment in time. The temperature, the amount of precipitation, even volcanic eruptions. All of this gets recorded in the ice. Scientists can read these layers, going back through time, understanding what our planet's climate was like thousands upon thousands of years ago. The ice remembers everything, patient and eternal. Within these layers of ice, something even more extraordinary is preserved. Ice cores, long cylinders of ice drilled from glaciers and ice sheets, preserve ancient air in tiny bubbles trapped within the ice. When snow falls and compresses, small pockets of the atmosphere get sealed inside. These bubbles are time capsules, containing the actual air from thousands of years ago. Scientists can extract this ancient air and analyze it, measuring the exact composition of Earth's atmosphere at different points in history. They can tell you precisely how much carbon dioxide or methane was in the air 10,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago. It's like having a direct line to the past, breathing the same air that ancient humans breathed. And what these ice cores have revealed is both fascinating and humbling. Ice cores reveal rapid climate shifts, showing us that Earth's climate can change suddenly, sometimes within just a few years or decades. The climate isn't always slow and gradual in its changes. Sometimes, for reasons scientists are still working to fully understand, the Earth's climate can shift dramatically and quickly. These discoveries remind us that our planet is a dynamic, sometimes unpredictable system, always changing, always in flux. The glaciers have watched all of this, recording every shift, every change, waiting patiently for us to learn to read their frozen records. Let these thoughts drift through your mind now like snow falling softly on a quiet glacier. Feel the weight of deep time, the patience of ice, the slow certainty of these ancient giants. Let yourself sink into the comfort of knowing that glaciers have endured for so long, watching over our world with silent steadiness. Rest now, and let the ice carry you gently into dreams. Now, let us turn our attention to the beginning, to the quiet, patient process by which glaciers come into being. Close your eyes, if they aren't closed already, and imagine snow falling. Not a brief flurry, but snow that falls season after season, year after year, century after century. This is where glaciers begin. Glaciers form from compacted snow, a transformation so gradual that it seems almost magical. When snow first falls, it's light and fluffy, full of air, delicate as lace. But as more snow falls on top of it, the weight begins to compress the layers below. Year after year, the snow gets squeezed, the air spaces grow smaller, the crystals begin to bond together. Over time, decades, sometimes centuries, this compressed snow transforms into something denser, something harder. Eventually, it becomes ice. Not the ice you find in your freezer, but glacier ice, dense and blue and ancient. This process requires patience beyond human measure, happening so slowly that no single person could ever witness the complete transformation. But it happens, reliably, inexorably, wherever snow falls and doesn't melt away. On every glacier, there exists an important boundary, an invisible line that determines the glacier's fate. Glaciers have a snow line called the Firn line, and this line marks the division between two worlds. Above this line, snow falls and stays, accumulating year after year, adding to the glacier's mass. Below this line, More snow melts in summer than accumulates in winter, and the glacier slowly gives itself back to the world as water. This firn line isn't fixed in one place. It moves up and down the glacier depending on the climate, rising in warm years, falling in cold ones. The position of this line determines whether a glacier grows or shrinks, whether it's healthy or slowly fading away. Picture this invisible boundary, shimmering in the alpine air, the line between permanence and change. You might think that cold temperatures alone determine where glaciers can exist, but there's something counterintuitive here, something beautifully unexpected. Snowfall amount matters more than temperature when it comes to glacier survival. A glacier can exist even in relatively warm conditions, as long as enough snow falls to replace what melts. Conversely, in an extremely cold place where almost no snow falls, glaciers may struggle to form at all. It's all about balance, the delicate equilibrium between accumulation and loss, between what the sky gives and what the sun takes away. Some of the world's most impressive glaciers exist in places that receive enormous snowfall, where winter storms dump meters upon meters of snow that then slowly transforms into ice. Here's something that might surprise you as you drift deeper into relaxation. Parts of glaciers actually sit near the melting point. Not all glacier ice is fully frozen solid. In fact, many glaciers contain ice that exists right at the threshold between solid and liquid, at or very close to 0 degrees Celsius. This is especially true at the base of thick glaciers, where the pressure from all the ice above, combined with geothermal heat from the earth below, keeps the ice at its melting point. This ice is neither fully solid nor fully liquid. It exists in a strange in-between state, ready to transition at the slightest change in conditions. It's this ice that allows glaciers to flow and move. Deep within a glacier, something remarkable happens to the ice itself. Ice recrystallizes under pressure, slowly changing its internal structure. The individual ice crystals that formed when snow first compressed begin to grow larger, merging with neighboring crystals, aligning themselves in response to the stress and pressure they experience. This process can take thousands of years, the crystals slowly reorganizing themselves grain by grain. If you could look at glacier ice under a microscope, you'd see these large, interlocking crystals, quite different from the smaller crystals in newer ice. The glacier is constantly remaking itself from within, a slow internal transformation that never stops. And it's through this process that glaciers achieve their most remarkable feat, movement. Glacier ice flows by internal creep, a phenomenon that seems almost impossible. Ice is solid, after all. How can something solid flow like a liquid? But under enough pressure and over enough time, ice behaves like a solid-liquid hybrid, deforming and flowing while remaining frozen. The ice crystals slip past one another, slowly, imperceptibly, like honey spreading across a plate, except unimaginably slower. This internal deformation allows glaciers to bend around mountains, to flow down valleys, to move as rivers of ice. It's happening right now, in glaciers around the world. Ice flowing so slowly that even time-lapse photography can barely capture it, yet flowing nonetheless, relentlessly. The speed at which a glacier moves depends on many factors, but here's a general rule that holds true. Thicker glaciers generally move faster. This makes intuitive sense when you think about it. More ice means more weight, more pressure, more force pushing the ice forward and downhill. A thin mountain glacier might move only inches per year, while a massive ice stream in Antarctica might flow several feet per day. The weight of the ice matters enormously. Picture the thickest glaciers, thousands of feet of ice pressing down, that immense weight driving the flow, pushing the ice forward in its patient journey toward the sea. But glaciers don't always flow smoothly and steadily. Some glaciers move in pulses, their flow occurring in rhythmic surges rather than constant motion. Scientists are still working to fully understand why this happens, but it appears related to the buildup and release of pressure within the ice and at the glacier's base. The glacier might flow relatively slowly for months or years, then suddenly move faster for a period before slowing down again. It's almost like a heartbeat, a rhythm of ice, a pulse that echoes through the frozen mass. Imagine these glaciers breathing in their slow, icy way, expanding and contracting, speeding up and slowing down in cycles that span seasons or years. Some glaciers take this pulsing behavior to an extreme. Some glaciers surge suddenly, dramatically speeding up for months or years before returning to their normal pace. During a surge, a glacier that normally moves just a few inches per day might suddenly race forward at speeds of several feet per hour, covering in months what would normally take decades. The glacier's surface cracks and buckles, crevasses open up, the ice groans and shifts. These surges can be triggered by various factors: a buildup of meltwater at the glacier's base, changes in the underlying bedrock, or internal instabilities in the ice itself. Then, as mysteriously as it began, the surge ends, and the glacier returns to its normal patient pace. These surging glaciers remind us that ice, for all its appearance of permanence, can be dynamic and even violent when conditions align. Water plays a crucial role in glacier movement, more than you might expect. Some glaciers move faster in summer, when warmer temperatures create meltwater on and within the ice. This meltwater trickles down through cracks and channels, eventually reaching the base of the glacier where it acts as a lubricant between the ice and the bedrock below. With this layer of water beneath it, the glacier can slide more easily, gliding forward more quickly than it does in winter when everything is frozen solid. So glaciers speed up when the sun shines, slowing down again when winter returns and the water refreezes. It's a seasonal dance, a response to the changing year, the glacier speeding and slowing in rhythm with Earth's orbit around the sun. Let these images settle into your mind now. Snow falling and compressing, ice transforming and flowing, glaciers pulsing and surging in their slow-motion choreography. Feel yourself becoming heavier, more relaxed, like snow compacting into ice. Let the weight of sleep press gently down upon you, and allow yourself to flow into dreams as slowly and inevitably as ice flowing down a mountain. Rest now, in the quiet certainty of these ancient processes, and let the glaciers carry you deeper into peaceful sleep. Let yourself drift now into a deeper state of relaxation as we explore the extraordinary power of ice. Not the sudden, explosive power of earthquakes or volcanoes, but something slower, more patient, and ultimately just as transformative. Glaciers are sculptors, artists working on a timescale that dwarfs human experience, reshaping the very face of our planet. Glaciers carve U-shaped valleys, transforming the landscape with their immense weight and relentless movement. Imagine a river valley, narrow at the bottom with steep V-shaped sides, carved by flowing water over millennia. Now imagine a glacier filling that valley, hundreds or thousands of feet of ice pressing down, grinding against the valley walls as it flows. The glacier doesn't just follow the existing valley, it reshapes it completely. The ice scrapes and scours the sides, widening the valley. It grinds down the bottom, deepening it. Year after year, century after century, the valley transforms. When the glacier finally retreats, what remains is something beautiful and distinct: a broad, U-shaped valley with steep, smooth walls and a wide, flat floor. These valleys are unmistakable signatures of glacial power, scattered across every continent where glaciers once flowed. Picture yourself standing in one of these valleys, surrounded by walls of rock polished smooth by ancient ice, and feel yourself sinking deeper into tranquility. Some of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth owe their existence to glacial carving. Glaciers shaped modern coastlines in ways that still define geography today. Fjords, those deep, narrow inlets with steep sides that cut far inland, were carved by glaciers flowing from mountains to the sea. As the ice retreated and sea levels rose, ocean water flooded these carved valleys, creating the spectacular fjords we see in Norway, New Zealand, Chile, and Alaska. Bays and harbors, too, were often carved or modified by ice. The coastlines we navigate today, the harbors where ships anchor, many of these features were sculpted by glaciers thousands of years ago. The ice reached down to the sea and beyond, carving channels that would later fill with water, creating the intricate, beautiful coastlines that define so many northern latitudes. The power of glaciers to reshape terrain is almost total. Entire valleys are reshaped by glaciers, with ice overriding existing landforms completely. When a glacier advances, it doesn't politely work around obstacles. It flows over them, around them, through them. Hills are ground down, valleys are deepened, entire landscapes are erased and rewritten. The glacier is indifferent to what came before. It creates its own geography, following the path of gravity and the shape of the bedrock far below. In places where multiple glaciations have occurred over millions of years, the landscape has been reworked again and again, each ice age adding its own modifications to the work of previous glaciers. The result is a palimpsest, a landscape written and rewritten by ice. As glaciers flow over bedrock, they leave their signatures behind. Glaciers scratch bedrock surfaces, gouging long parallel grooves called striations into the rock. These scratches are created by rocks and debris embedded in the bottom of the glacier, dragged along like the teeth of an enormous file. The striations show the direction the glacier flowed, sometimes pointing in surprising directions that reveal how ice sheets thousands of feet thick can flow uphill, over mountains, driven by the immense pressure behind them. Geologists can read these scratches like clues in a mystery, reconstructing where glaciers once flowed millions of years after the ice has melted away. Even now, on rock surfaces around the world, you can run your fingers along these grooves and touch the evidence of ice that flowed when mammoths still walked the earth. But glaciers don't just scratch rock. They grind it down into powder, creating what's called glacial flour. This is rock pulverized so finely that it feels like silt or clay between your fingers, particles so small they can remain suspended in water for days or weeks. The grinding happens at the glacier's base, where rock embedded in the ice scrapes against bedrock, both surfaces wearing away, creating this incredibly fine sediment. Glacial flour is produced in enormous quantities. Rivers flowing from glaciers often carry millions of tons of this sediment each year, the physical evidence of mountains being slowly ground away by ice. And this glacial flour creates one of nature's most beautiful phenomena. Glacier-fed lakes glow with an ethereal turquoise color, a shade of blue-green so vivid it almost seems artificial. This color comes from light scattering through the fine sediment suspended in the water. The tiny particles of glacial flour reflect and scatter sunlight in particular ways, preferentially scattering the blue and green wavelengths while absorbing others. The result is water that glows with an otherworldly luminescence, lakes that look like they contain liquid sky. These glacial lakes are scattered throughout mountain ranges worldwide, places where you can witness firsthand the beauty that emerges from ice grinding rock into powder. Imagine standing beside one of these lakes, watching the light dance across its impossibly blue surface, and let that image carry you deeper into peaceful rest. Glaciers are also transporters of stone, carrying rocks vast distances from their original locations. Glaciers transport massive boulders, some weighing hundreds of tons, plucking them from mountainsides and carrying them along within the ice or on the glacier's surface. When the glacier finally melts, these boulders are deposited far from where they originated, sometimes in the middle of flat plains or atop hills, looking completely out of place. These displaced rocks are called glacial erratics, and they puzzled people for centuries before the theory of glaciation explained their origin. Some erratics are the size of houses, enormous chunks of granite or other rock sitting incongruously in landscapes where no such rock naturally occurs. These erratics are travelers, journeying for miles or even hundreds of miles within their glacial vessels before being set down in their new, permanent homes. The grinding power of glaciers has had profound effects on human civilization, though we rarely think about it. Glaciers helped create fertile soils in many parts of the world. The ground rock produced by glacial erosion enriched agricultural land, creating the deep, mineral-rich soils that now feed billions of people. The American Midwest, for example, owes much of its agricultural productivity to glacial deposits left behind by ice sheets that retreated 10,000 years ago. The glaciers ground up rock from Canada and distributed it across what would become some of the world's most productive farmland. The bread on your table, if you live in certain parts of the world, exists partly because glaciers ground mountains into fertile soil thousands of years before agriculture even existed. Glaciers have also revealed treasures hidden within the earth. Glacial erosion exposes mineral deposits, scraping away the overlying rock to reveal valuable resources buried beneath. Some of the world's most important mining districts owe their discovery to glacial erosion. The ice did the work of removing the overburden, the layers of rock that would have otherwise hidden or deposits from human discovery. Diamond deposits in Canada, gold in Alaska, various metals across Scandinavia. Glaciers helped reveal these resources, acting as inadvertent prospectors, stripping away rock to expose the wealth beneath. And the scale of past glaciation is almost incomprehensible. Ancient glaciers once covered continents, burying much of Europe and North America beneath ice sheets miles thick. During the last ice age, which ended only about 12,000 years ago, ice covered most of Canada, extended south to where New York and Chicago now stand, and blanketed Scandinavia and much of Britain. Imagine those places not as forests and cities, but as endless expanses of ice, white and silent, stretching to every horizon. The weight of all that ice was so enormous that it actually pressed the Earth's crust down, depressing the land hundreds of feet below where it would otherwise be. Even now, thousands of years after the ice melted, parts of Canada and Scandinavia are still slowly rebounding upward, rising as the Earth's crust recovers from the weight it once bore. The ice sheets are gone, but the Earth still remembers. Let these images wash over you now like glacial meltwater, cool and cleansing. Feel the immense patience of ice reshaping mountains, the slow certainty of valleys being carved, the quiet power of landscapes being transformed. Allow yourself to be reshaped by sleep, worn smooth by rest, carved into peaceful dreams by the gentle, inexorable flow of relaxation. The glaciers have all the time in the world, and so do you. Let go, and drift now into the deep valleys of sleep. As you settle even deeper into comfort, let us venture into the secret spaces within glaciers, hidden worlds that exist in darkness and cold, places where water flows and life persists against all odds. The glacier is not just a solid mass of ice, but something far more complex, full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. It may seem impossible, but rivers can flow inside glaciers, carving elaborate networks of internal channels through the ice itself. Meltwater, created by pressure, friction, and the faint warmth from the earth below, trickles and flows through the glacier, finding paths of least resistance, gradually melting channels and tunnels through the frozen mass. These glacial rivers flow in complete darkness, winding through passages of blue ice, sometimes thundering with the force of whitewater rapids, sometimes trickling quietly through narrow tubes. In summer, when surface meltwater pours into crevasses and moulins, vertical shafts that plunge deep into the glacier, these internal rivers can swell dramatically, becoming roaring torrents that carve the ice into cathedral-like chambers and serpentine passages. Explorers who venture into these ice caves describe a surreal world of flowing water and frozen walls, where the sound of rushing water echoes through spaces that seem to glow from within. Imagine floating now in your mind through one of these passages, surrounded by luminous blue ice, the sound of water your only companion, and let that image carry you deeper into tranquility. Sometimes, glaciers encounter existing cave systems in the bedrock below, and when they do, glaciers can seal cave systems completely, ice-blocking underground passages that once echoed with the sound of water or wind. These caves become frozen in time, their chambers filled with ice, their passages blocked, waiting sometimes for thousands of years until the glacier retreats and releases them once more. When glaciers finally melt and these caves are reopened, explorers sometimes find them transformed, lined with ice formations, their original features modified by the long, cold embrace of the glacier. Some caves remain frozen even after the glacier above has melted, preserving ice deep underground where the temperature stays perpetually below freezing. These ice-filled caves are time capsules, preserving moments from thousands of years ago in frozen stillness. Glaciers are so massive that they create their own weather systems, influencing wind patterns and temperature for miles around. Ice sheets create their own weather, acting as generators of cold, dense air that flows outward from the ice like an invisible river. Standing near a large glacier, you can often feel this glacial wind, cold air pouring off the ice, chilling everything in its path. The intense cold of the ice surface creates high-pressure zones, and air flows downward and outward, creating katabatic winds that can reach hurricane strength in some polar regions. These winds shape the weather patterns of entire regions, bringing cold, dry air to places that might otherwise be warmer. The ice doesn't just respond to climate, it actively shapes it, creates it, influences temperature and precipitation patterns across vast areas. The glacier is a weather maker, breathing cold into the world. One of the glacier's most important roles in our climate system comes from a simple physical property. Glaciers reflect up to 90% of sunlight that strikes their surface. This extraordinary reflectivity, called albedo, helps cool the planet in profound ways. When sunlight hits dark ocean water or forest or rock, most of that energy is absorbed, warming the surface. But when that same sunlight hits snow or ice, almost all of it bounces back into space, never warming anything at all. Glaciers and ice sheets act as enormous mirrors, reflecting solar energy away from Earth, helping to keep our planet cooler than it would otherwise be. This is why the loss of ice creates a feedback loop. Less ice means less reflection, which means more warming, which means even less ice. The white expanses of glaciers are not just beautiful, they're essential to Earth's energy balance, reflecting away heat, keeping our world habitable. But glaciers are not always pure white. Under certain conditions, algae can color snow pink or red, creating fields of watermelon snow or blood snow that look like something from another planet. These tiny organisms, snow algae, survive and even thrive in the harsh environment of glacier surfaces, growing in summer when meltwater provides moisture and sunlight provides energy. The algae produce red or pink pigments to protect themselves from intense ultraviolet radiation, and when they bloom in sufficient numbers, they can color entire snowfields pink or red. This biological growth darkens the ice, reducing its reflectivity, causing it to absorb more heat and melt faster. Life on the glacier changes the glacier itself, a feedback between biology and physics that scientists are still working to fully understand. Imagine a field of pink snow stretching before you, life flourishing where it seems impossible, and let that wonder ease you deeper into rest. Life on glaciers is more widespread than you might think. Microorganisms live inside glacier ice, surviving in tiny pockets of liquid water that persist even in ice far below freezing. These extremophiles, lovers of extreme conditions, have adapted to survive with almost no nutrients, at temperatures that would kill most living things, sometimes in complete darkness. They live in slow motion, their metabolism barely ticking over, reproducing perhaps once every few years or decades, existing in a state between life and dormancy. Some scientists believe that studying these glacier microbes might help us understand how life could exist on other worlds, in the ice of Mars or the frozen moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Life finds a way, even in the most hostile environments, clinging to existence in the heart of ancient ice. Glaciers preserve not just microorganisms, but larger life as well. Frozen insects are found in glaciers, entire organisms remaining preserved for hundreds or thousands of years, trapped in ice like flies in amber. These insects, grasshoppers, flies, beetles, were caught by storms or simply flew too high and became trapped when they landed on snow that would eventually compress into glacier ice. They remain perfectly preserved, their bodies frozen so quickly and so completely that even their internal structures remain intact. Scientists can study these ancient insects, learning about species that may no longer exist, or about how modern species have changed over millennia. The glacier is a museum of life, preserving specimens with perfect fidelity. But insects aren't the only biological material preserved in ice. Glaciers preserve ancient pollen, those microscopic grains produced by plants, each species with its own distinctive shape. As pollen settles on glaciers and becomes incorporated into the ice, it creates a record of what plants were growing in the region at different times in the past. Scientists can extract ice cores, carefully melt the ice, and examine the pollen, reconstructing entire ecosystems from thousands of years ago. They can tell you what trees grew in a valley, what flowers bloomed, how the vegetation changed as the climate shifted. The pollen tells stories of forests that no longer exist, of plants that have moved to different regions, of ecosystems that have transformed completely. Each grain of pollen is a messenger from the past, preserved in frozen clarity. Fire, too, leaves its mark in ice. Ice cores reveal ancient wildfires through the soot and charcoal particles trapped in the ice. When forests burn, smoke and ash particles rise high into the atmosphere and eventually settle on distant glaciers, becoming incorporated into the ice along with the snow. Scientists can detect these particles in ice cores, creating a record of fire history going back thousands of years. They can see when massive fires occurred, how fire frequency has changed over time, how humans and climate have influenced fire patterns across millennia. The ice remembers the fires, preserves their signatures, black specks in white ice marking moments when forests burned beneath skies filled with smoke. And speaking of ash, volcanic eruptions also leave unmistakable traces in glacier ice. Volcanic ash is trapped in glacier layers, creating distinct bands that scientists can use to date ancient eruptions. When a volcano erupts with enough force, ash spreads across entire continents, settling on glaciers thousands of miles away. This ash becomes a marker layer in the ice, a precise moment in time that can be identified and dated. By matching these ash layers in ice cores from different glaciers, scientists can create precise chronologies, aligning ice cores from Greenland with those from Antarctica, creating a unified timeline of Earth's climate history. The volcanoes speak to us across time through these layers, their eruptions marked forever in frozen ash. Let these hidden worlds within the ice fill your imagination now. Rivers flowing in darkness, life persisting in impossible cold, pollen and ash and ancient insects all preserved in frozen time. Feel yourself being preserved in this moment, held gently by sleep, protected and peaceful. The glacier keeps its secrets safe, and sleep will keep you safe as well. Release yourself now into those hidden spaces, into darkness and cold that paradoxically feel warm and welcoming, into the deep, secret heart of ice, and let yourself rest completely. As you continue to relax, breathing slowly and deeply, we turn now to a different side of glaciers. Their power not just to shape, but to unleash sudden and dramatic change. Even in their danger, there is a kind of awe-inspiring beauty, a reminder of nature's immense force. Let these stories wash over you, knowing you are safe and comfortable as you listen. Sometimes, as glaciers flow down valleys, they encounter rivers flowing in the opposite direction, and when this happens, glaciers can form natural dams, blocking the flow of water with walls of ice. The river, stopped in its course, begins to pool behind the ice dam, creating a lake where none existed before. These glacial lakes can grow enormous, holding back millions or even billions of gallons of water, the ice dam standing firm against the pressure. For a time, everything seems stable. The lake sits peacefully behind its frozen wall, blue and still, surrounded by mountains. But ice is not like concrete or steel. It moves, it melts, it weakens in ways that are difficult to predict. The lake waits, held back by ice, and the ice holds, until one day it doesn't. When ice dams fail, they can fail catastrophically, releasing their imprisoned water in floods that travel vast distances, transforming landscapes in hours or even minutes. The water doesn't seep out gradually. The dam breaks, suddenly and completely, and the entire lake drains in a massive torrent. These floods carry everything before them. Boulders the size of cars, entire trees, chunks of ice as big as buildings, racing down valleys at speeds that can reach 50 miles per hour or more. The flood scours the valley clean, stripping away soil, vegetation, and anything else in its path, depositing debris miles downstream in chaotic jumbles of rock and ice and shattered wood. When the flood finally subsides, the landscape has been completely transformed, remade in a matter of hours by water that was held peacefully in a lake just days before. These glacial floods have a special name, borrowed from Icelandic, jökulhlaups, a word that means glacier leap or glacier run. The sudden releases cause devastation on a scale that can be hard to comprehend. In Iceland, jökulhlaups from subglacial volcanic eruptions have released flows larger than the Amazon River, bridges and roads swept away like twigs, valleys filled with debris, coastlines extended hundreds of feet into the ocean by the sediment deposited by a single flood. These events happen suddenly, often with little warning, triggered by the melting of ice from volcanic heat, or the slow weakening of an ice dam, or the filling of a lake beyond the dam's capacity to hold. The word Jokulhlop sounds almost gentle, musical, but it describes one of nature's most violent phenomena, water and ice combining in catastrophic release. The surface of a glacier, seemingly solid, is actually crisscrossed with hidden dangers. Crevasses can be hundreds of meters deep, enormous cracks that form in the ice as it flows and bends, stressed by its movement over uneven terrain. These crevasses form without warning, the ice silently splitting as internal stresses exceed the ice's strength. Sometimes they're visible, great gaping chasms that clearly mark themselves as dangerous. But often they're hidden beneath bridges of snow, appearing as safe, solid surfaces that can collapse without warning when weight is placed on them, plunging the unwary into depths where blue ice walls rise on either side and the bottom, if visible at all, lies far below in shadow. Explorers on glaciers rope themselves together precisely because of this danger. One person breaking through a snow bridge can be caught and saved by their companions, rather than falling to injury or death in the cold darkness below. The ice itself can be unpredictable in its movements. Glacier fractures can occur suddenly, ice splitting instantly with sounds like thunder or gunshots echoing across the frozen landscape. These fractures can race across the glacier surface, cracks propagating faster than a person can run, the ice opening up in jagged lines that reveal the glacier's interior. Sometimes these fractures are triggered by movement, by the ice adjusting to stresses. Sometimes they occur when ice warms slightly, becoming more brittle. Sometimes they happen for reasons scientists don't fully understand, the ice simply deciding, in its own time, to break. Standing on a glacier when this happens is both terrifying and mesmerizing. The sound, the visible crack racing across the ice, the reminder that you're standing on something dynamic and alive in its own frozen way. At the edges of glaciers that reach the sea, or where glaciers terminate in lakes, a spectacular and dangerous process unfolds. Iceberg calving can be explosive, enormous chunks of ice breaking free from the glacier's face and falling into the water with force that creates powerful waves. These aren't quiet events. The ice groans and cracks, tension building in the glacier's face. Then, with a sound like artillery fire, a section breaks free, sometimes weighing thousands of tons, tumbling forward into the water in slow motion that only seems slow from a distance. Up close, the falling ice crashes down with tremendous force, displacing water, creating waves that can capsize boats hundreds of feet away. The splash can send water and ice fragments flying, and the wave rushes outward in all directions, capable of carrying away anything near the shore. Tour boats keep their distance for good reason. The glacier's edge is beautiful but deadly, and calving events are unpredictable, occurring without warning at any time of day or night. In mountainous terrain, some glaciers exist in particularly precarious positions. Hanging glaciers cling to cliffs, perched on steep slopes where they seem to defy gravity, frozen in place on mountainsides. But they can collapse without warning, entire glaciers breaking free from their rocky anchors and avalanching down the mountain in catastrophic ice falls. These collapses can be triggered by warming temperatures that melt the ice bonding the glacier to the rock, by earthquakes that shake the mountain, or simply by the glacier growing too heavy for its perch. When a hanging glacier collapses, millions of tons of ice fall at once, pulverizing into powder and chunks, racing down the mountain in an ice avalanche that can travel miles from the original glacier, burying valleys, destroying anything in its path. Mountaineers are trained to recognize hanging glaciers and give them wide berth, knowing that these beautiful frozen sculptures are also loaded weapons, waiting for the moment of release. As glaciers retreat and melt away, they leave behind landscapes that are less stable than they seem. Glacier retreat increases landslide risk because mountains lose the structural support the ice once provided. For thousands of years, the ice held the rock in place, the glacier's weight and presence supporting valley walls, holding loose rock in position. As the ice melts away, that support disappears. Rock faces that were stable for millennia suddenly aren't. mountains that stood firm begin to fall apart. Massive landslides can occur as slopes adjust to the absence of ice, entire mountainsides collapsing, sometimes years or even decades after the glacier retreated. The landscape is finding a new equilibrium, adjusting to a world without ice, and that adjustment can be violent and dangerous. In an effect that surprises many people, glacier loss can actually increase earthquake risk in some regions. The immense weight of ice sheets and glaciers presses down on the Earth's crust, and as ice melts, pressure changes affect fault stability. Faults that were held in place by the weight of ice can suddenly become free to move. The removal of ice can actually trigger earthquakes as the Earth's crust rebounds upward, stresses shift, and faults adjust to new conditions. In places where massive ice sheets have recently melted, on geological timescales, recently can mean the last 10,000 years. Scientists observe increased seismic activity, the Earth still adjusting to the loss of ice, still responding to the removal of weight that accumulated over tens of thousands of years. The ice held more than just water. It held the very bedrock in place. And as ice melts away, it reveals what lay beneath, sometimes exposing features that had been hidden for millennia. Melting ice exposes fault lines, bringing previously hidden geology into view for the first time in thousands of years. Geologists can now study rock formations that were covered during the last ice age, examining fault structures that haven't seen sunlight since before human civilization began. This exposure of previously hidden features helps scientists understand geological history, tectonic movements, and the structure of the Earth's crust. The glacier was a curtain, and as it pulls back, we see the stage beneath, the ancient rock with all its cracks and faults and stories written in stone. Let these images of power and change drift through your mind now, not as sources of anxiety, but as reminders of nature's awesome force, of processes far larger than ourselves. You are safe here, warm and comfortable, far from calving icebergs and breaking glaciers. Let the danger remain distant, abstract, a story you're hearing as you sink deeper into peaceful rest. The glaciers can be dangerous, yes, but you are protected, held gently by comfort and quiet. Release any tension, let go of any worry, and allow yourself to fall deeper into the safe embrace of sleep, where no danger can reach you, where only peace remains. Now, let us explore the deep and ancient relationship between glaciers and humanity, a connection that stretches back to our earliest days, a bond woven through geography, survival, culture, and wonder. Settle even deeper into comfort as we trace the ways ice and human destiny have intertwined across the ages. Our ancestors' journeys across the world were shaped by ice in ways both obvious and subtle. Humans migrated along retreating glaciers, following the ice as it pulled back at the end of ice ages, revealing new land, new resources, new possibilities. As glaciers retreated, they left behind freshly exposed valleys, new coastlines, and corridors through mountain ranges. Early humans moved into these spaces, tracking the herds of animals that also followed the retreating ice, establishing new territories in landscapes that had been frozen and barren just generations before. Ice shaped ancient travel routes, determining where people could go and where they couldn't, creating pathways through otherwise impassable terrain. The retreat of ice opened doors, literally, and humans walked through them, spreading across continents in the wake of melting glaciers. Our species' global dispersal is, in many ways, a story of following ice as it withdrew. But glaciers didn't just shape migration through their retreat. They also created the very paths that made migration possible. During ice ages, when enormous quantities of water were locked up in continental ice sheets, sea levels dropped dramatically, sometimes by 300 feet or more. This lower sea level exposed land that is now underwater, creating ancient land bridges between continents and islands. The most famous of these is Beringia, the land bridge between Asia and North America that allowed humans to first enter the Americas sometime during the last ice age. What is now the Bering Strait was then a wide, grassy plain, exposed by glaciers holding back the sea. Humans walked from Siberia to Alaska on dry land, following game, seeking new territory, unknowingly crossing from one continent to another. Glaciers created this crossing, held back the ocean, and made possible one of humanity's greatest migrations. When the ice finally melted, the sea returned, and the bridge vanished beneath the waves, but by then, humans had already spread throughout the Americas. The glacier opened a door, humans passed through, and then the door closed behind them, perhaps forever. In our modern world, glaciers continue to shape human life in fundamental ways. Glaciers regulate seasonal water supply, acting as natural reservoirs that store water in winter and release it in summer. In mountain regions around the world, precipitation falls as snow in cold months, accumulating in glaciers. Then, during summer when rainfall is low and water demand is high, the glaciers melt, releasing water gradually and reliably. This natural regulation has shaped agriculture, settlement patterns, and entire civilizations. Without glaciers to store water and release it when needed, many regions would experience severe water shortages during the dry season, making year-round agriculture difficult or impossible. The importance of this glacial water supply cannot be overstated. Major rivers rely on glacier meltwater, and millions of people depend on this water for drinking, irrigation, and hydroelectric power. The Ganges, fed by Himalayan glaciers, provides water to hundreds of millions of people across India and Bangladesh. The Indus, also glacier-fed, supports the irrigation systems that feed Pakistan and northern India. In South America, rivers flowing from Andean glaciers sustain cities and farms in Peru, Bolivia, and Chile. In Central Asia, glacier meltwater feeds the rivers that flow through some of the world's most arid regions, making agriculture possible in otherwise desert landscapes. These glaciers are, quite literally, lifelines. As they shrink in a warming world, the future water supply for vast populations becomes uncertain, a challenge that will define coming decades. But for now, the glaciers continue their ancient role, storing winter's snow and releasing summer's water, maintaining rhythms that human civilizations have depended on for thousands of years. Glaciers don't just supply water, they actively reshape the drainage patterns of entire regions. Glaciers can permanently reroute rivers, as melt reshapes drainage systems in ways that last long after the ice is gone. When a glacier advances, it can block existing river valleys, forcing rivers to find new paths around the ice. When a glacier retreats, it leaves behind new topography, moraines, depressions, changed slopes, that alter how water flows across the landscape. Rivers that flowed in one direction for thousands of years can suddenly shift to entirely new channels. Lakes appear where none existed. Waterfalls emerge as rivers spill over newly created cliffs. The glacier redesigns the plumbing of entire watersheds, and these changes persist long after the ice has melted away. The water flowing from glaciers is not constant in its composition. Meltwater chemistry changes seasonally, the water's chemical makeup shifting yearly in predictable patterns. In early summer, when melt first begins, the water is relatively pure, containing few dissolved minerals. As the melt season progresses and water has more contact with rock and sediment, mineral content increases. The water becomes more alkaline, picks up more nutrients, changes in ways that affect everything downstream: aquatic ecosystems, agricultural irrigation, even the taste of drinking water. Scientists can read these chemical changes like a calendar, tracking the progression of the melt season through the changing chemistry of glacier-fed streams. For many cultures, glaciers are more than just geological features or water sources. They are sacred, culturally significant landmarks. Some glaciers are cultural heritage sites, legally protected because of their importance to indigenous peoples and local communities. In New Zealand, certain glaciers are recognized as ancestors by Maori communities, embodying spiritual significance that goes far beyond their physical presence. In the Andes, glaciers have been worshipped for centuries as dwelling places of mountain gods. These glaciers are protected not just for their environmental importance, but for their cultural and spiritual value, recognized as irreplaceable parts of human heritage. The ice is sacred, and that sacredness is now acknowledged in law. Human history is written on glaciers in another way as well. Many glaciers are named after explorers, the maps themselves preserving human stories of discovery and adventure. Ross Ice Shelf, named for Sir James Clark Ross. Humboldt Glacier, honoring Alexander von Humboldt. Muir Glacier, commemorating John Muir's explorations in Alaska. These names connect the ice to human achievement, to moments of discovery, to individuals who ventured into frozen wilderness and returned to tell their tales. Every glacier name carries a story, whether of exploration, of indigenous languages, of geographic features, or of the scientists who first studied them. The glaciers are atlases of human history, each name a chapter in the long story of our relationship with ice. In the most remote glaciers, humans have established permanent presences, building research stations on ice that never stops moving. Research stations sit on moving ice, and the buildings themselves drift slowly over time. Scientists living at these stations know that their position changes daily, that the ice beneath them flows, carrying the station along. In Antarctica, some research stations have moved miles from their original locations over the course of decades, riding atop ice sheets that flow inexorably toward the sea. The stations must be monitored constantly, repositioned sometimes, or eventually abandoned when they drift too far or when the ice threatens to carry them into dangerous areas. It's a strange existence, living on a surface that moves beneath you, your home drifting across a frozen continent at inches or feet per day, never staying in the same place, always in motion. And Antarctica's ice has provided humanity with unexpected treasures from beyond our world. Antarctic ice preserves meteorites, space rocks that fell to Earth and have been protected in the ice for thousands or even millions of years. The dark rocks stand out starkly against the white ice, making them relatively easy to spot. More importantly, the cold, dry Antarctic environment preserves them almost perfectly, protecting them from the weathering that would destroy or contaminate them in other environments. Scientists have collected tens of thousands of meteorites from Antarctica, including some of the most scientifically valuable specimens ever found. Fragments from Mars, from the Moon, from asteroids that formed when the solar system was young. The ice offers these gifts from space, holding them safe until humans arrive to discover them, preserving pieces of other worlds in frozen clarity. Let these connections between ice and humanity wash over you now. Migrations and bridges, water and survival, culture and discovery. Feel your own connection to these glaciers, whether you live near them or far away. We are all, in some way, products of ice ages, children of a world shaped by glaciers. Let that deep connection settle into your bones as you relax even further, knowing that the story of ice is part of your own story, written into the landscape, into history, into the very ground beneath your feet. Rest now in that knowledge, and let yourself drift like a research station on Antarctic ice, moving slowly, peacefully, into the depths of sleep. As you sink even deeper into relaxation, your breathing slow and steady, let us step back and see glaciers from a different perspective. Not as individual rivers of ice, but as forces that shape our entire planet, influencing systems so vast they're almost incomprehensible. Close your eyes and imagine Earth from space, a blue marble touched with white, and know that the white you see is powerful beyond measure. Here is a number that may surprise you, a fact that changes how we think about water itself. Most of Earth's fresh water is frozen in glaciers. About 69% of all the fresh water on our planet is locked in ice. Not in lakes, not in rivers, not in groundwater, but in glaciers and ice sheets. If you could somehow gather all the fresh water on Earth, every river, every lake, every underground aquifer, every glacier, and separate it into portions, more than 2/3 of it would be ice. The vast majority of the water we could potentially drink, the water not salted by the ocean, sits frozen in Antarctica, Greenland, and mountain glaciers around the world. This ice is a reservoir almost beyond comprehension, holding water that fell as snow thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago, storing it in frozen suspension, waiting. And this matters enormously for our oceans and coastlines. Melting glaciers raise sea levels, because land ice adds water to the oceans when it melts. This is different from sea ice. When floating ice melts, It doesn't raise sea level because it's already displacing its own weight in water. But glaciers rest on land, and when they melt, that water flows into the ocean, adding volume, raising the level incrementally but inexorably. Over the past century, melting glaciers have contributed significantly to sea level rise, and this contribution is accelerating. Coastal cities, island nations, low-lying agricultural regions, all are affected by water that was once locked in ice on distant mountains or polar ice sheets. The glacier melts in Greenland or Alaska or the Himalayas, and beaches erode in Florida, Bangladesh, and Pacific Islands. Everything is connected through water, through the global ocean that receives meltwater from every glacier on Earth. But the effects go beyond simple addition of water. Glacier melt influences ocean circulation in subtle but profound ways. Freshwater alters currents, changing the density and salinity of seawater in ways that affect how the ocean moves and mixes. Ocean currents are driven partly by differences in water density. Cold, salty water sinks, while warm, fresh water rises. When massive amounts of fresh water from melting ice sheets pour into the ocean, especially in polar regions, they can disrupt these density-driven currents. The North Atlantic circulation, which helps keep Europe relatively warm, is particularly sensitive to freshwater input from Greenland's melting ice sheet. Too much fresh water in the wrong place could potentially slow or even temporarily shut down these currents, with cascading effects on climate across the northern hemisphere. The glacier melts, and ocean currents thousands of miles away respond, shifting in their ancient patterns, adjusting to the influx of fresh, cold water. The sheer weight of ice has effects that seem almost impossible. Ice sheets depress Earth's crust, the land actually sinking under the extreme weight of ice miles thick. In Antarctica and Greenland, the bedrock beneath the ice sheets has been pushed down hundreds or even thousands of feet below where it would naturally sit. The ice is so heavy that it deforms the Earth itself, pressing down on the crust, forcing it to sink into the more pliable mantle below. In some places, the rock beneath Antarctic ice has been pushed below sea level by the weight of ice above, creating basins that, if the ice were removed, would fill with ocean water. The glacier doesn't just sit on the Earth, it actively reshapes it, pressing down with incomprehensible force. But when ice melts and that weight is removed, something remarkable happens. Land rebounds after ice melts in a process called isostatic rebound, the Earth's crust slowly rising back toward its original position. This rebound happens slowly, over thousands of years, but it's measurable and ongoing. Parts of Scandinavia and Canada are still rising, still rebounding from ice sheets that melted 10,000 years ago. The land rises a few millimeters per year, coastlines change, harbors that were once at sea level gradually lift above the water. Ancient beaches now sit far inland, elevated by this slow, patient rising of the land. The Earth remembers the ice, and even thousands of years after it's gone, the planet is still adjusting, still responding to weight that once pressed down but has now vanished. On an even more fundamental level, ice affects how our planet spins. Ice mass shifts affect Earth's rotation, with large changes altering the planet's balance slightly. When massive ice sheets melt and redistribute their water to the oceans, they change how Earth's mass is distributed. Most of the planet's mass shifts slightly from the poles toward the equator as ice melts and sea level rises. This redistribution affects Earth's moment of inertia, which in turn affects how fast the planet spins and how it wobbles on its axis. These effects are tiny. We're talking about changes in the length of a day measured in microseconds, and changes in Earth's wobble measured in inches, but they're real and measurable. The melting of ice doesn't just change sea level and climate. It changes the fundamental physics of how our planet rotates in space. The glacier melts, and Earth's spin adjusts, ever so slightly, to this new distribution of mass. Over longer timescales, glaciers play a crucial role in planetary climate. Glaciers regulate long-term climate cycles, influencing planetary temperature through multiple mechanisms. When ice sheets grow during ice ages, they lock up water, lower sea level, increase Earth's reflectivity, and change atmospheric circulation patterns. When they shrink, these effects reverse. But there are also feedback loops. Ice affects climate, which affects ice, which affects climate again in an ongoing cycle. These feedbacks can amplify changes, pushing climate toward extremes, or sometimes stabilize it, preventing runaway warming or cooling. The glaciers are not just responding to climate, they're actively participating in it, influencing it, helping to regulate Earth's temperature across millennia. One of the most important ways glaciers influence climate is through reflection. Glaciers reflect sunlight back to space, their white surfaces bouncing solar radiation away before it can warm the planet. This is the albedo effect we mentioned before, but at planetary scale, it's even more significant. The ice sheets of Antarctica and Greenland, combined with sea ice and mountain glaciers, reflect enough sunlight to significantly cool the entire planet. If all this ice melted, Earth's surface would become darker on average. More dark ocean, more dark rock, and would absorb more heat, leading to further warming. The glacier isn't just cold, it actively creates cold, reflects heat away, maintains a cooler planet than would exist without ice. As glaciers respond to changing climate, they don't all respond in the same way. Some glaciers thin faster than they retreat, losing thickness through melting and calving, while their terminus, their front edge, stays relatively stationary. Vertical loss happens first in these glaciers, the ice thinning from the top down and from the bottom up, becoming shallower and shallower even as it occupies roughly the same area. Eventually, these glaciers may collapse relatively suddenly, breaking apart once they've thinned beyond a critical threshold. Other glaciers retreat steadily, their edges pulling back up valley while maintaining roughly the same thickness. Each glacier responds uniquely to warming, depending on its size, location, local climate, and the specific geography of its valley or basin. Some glaciers, as they shrink, change their fundamental nature. Some glaciers shrink into ice fields, losing the flow that once defined them as glaciers and changing their classification entirely. A glacier, by definition, must flow under its own weight. An ice field is stationary ice, frozen to bedrock, not thick enough or heavy enough to flow. As a glacier melts and thins, it may reach a point where it stops moving, becoming an ice field instead. The transformation is gradual, the flow slowing over years or decades until finally it stops altogether. What was once a glacier becomes something else, a remnant, a memory of ice frozen in place, no longer flowing but not yet gone. Let these planetary scale effects fill your mind now. The rising seas, the shifting currents, the rebounding land, the very rotation of Earth responding to melting ice. Feel yourself part of this vast system, connected to glaciers even if you've never seen one, affected by ice even if you live far from any frozen landscape. Everything is connected, glacier to ocean, ocean to climate, climate to land, land to glacier in an endless cycle. Let this sense of connection soothe you, the knowledge that you're part of something immense and beautiful and intricate. Rest now in that vastness, and let yourself dissolve into it like ice melting into ocean, becoming part of the greater whole, peaceful and complete. As you rest here, comfortable and calm, let us turn our thoughts toward time yet to come, toward the uncertain future of glaciers and the world they shape. There is no need for worry or anxiety. Just let these thoughts drift through your mind like clouds passing overhead, observed but not grasped, acknowledged but not held. The ways glaciers melt are more complex than simply warming air melting their surfaces. Glaciers can melt from underneath, with warm water eroding their base in ways that are invisible from above. For glaciers that terminate in the ocean or in lakes, this underwater melting can be the dominant form of ice loss. Warm ocean currents circulate beneath floating ice shelves and glacier tongues, melting them from below at rates far exceeding surface melt. The glacier sits in the water like an ice cube in warm tea, dissolving from its submerged portions while appearing relatively stable from above. This hidden melting is particularly difficult to measure and predict, happening in darkness beneath hundreds of feet of ice, reshaping glaciers in ways we're only beginning to understand. The water beneath, warmer by just a few degrees, quietly dissolves the ice, patient and persistent. Interestingly, not all ice melts at the same rate even under similar conditions. Debris-covered glaciers melt slower than their clean counterparts because rock layers insulate the ice beneath. When a glacier's surface is covered with a thick layer of rock and sediment, that debris acts like a blanket, protecting the ice from direct sunlight and warm air. These debris-covered glaciers can persist in areas where clean ice would melt away completely, the rock protecting them, slowing their retreat. The insulation isn't perfect, of course, and these glaciers still shrink in warming climates, but they demonstrate how complexity matters, how the details of each glacier's situation determine its fate. Two glaciers at the same latitude and elevation might respond very differently to warming depending on whether they're covered in protective debris or exposed to direct sun. Within the moving ice itself, another source of warmth emerges. Internal friction generates heat as ice crystals slide past one another during glacial flow. Movement warms glaciers from within, the friction of flow converting mechanical energy into thermal energy. In fast-moving glaciers, this internal heating can be significant enough to warm the ice near its melting point, making it flow even faster in a feedback loop. Faster flow creates more friction, which creates more heat, which makes the ice flow more easily, which increases flow speed. The glacier generates its own warmth through motion, warming itself from the inside out through the simple physics of friction. This internal and basal melting has consequences for glacier dynamics. Meltwater lubricates glacier bases, reducing friction between ice and bedrock, and speed increases as melting grows. The water acts like oil in an engine, letting the glacier slide more easily over its bed. In summer, when surface melting sends water down through the glacier to its base, many glaciers accelerate, moving faster than they do in winter when everything is frozen solid. This acceleration creates more friction, more heat, more melting, more lubrication, in a feedback that can cause dramatic changes in glacier behavior. The glacier speeds up, racing toward the sea or down the valley, driven by the water beneath it. Climate and glaciers have a complex relationship that doesn't always follow intuition. Surprisingly, some glaciers advance during warming periods, growing longer even as global temperatures rise. This happens when heavy snowfall can offset melt, at least briefly. If warming temperatures also bring more moisture and precipitation to a region, increased snowfall at high elevations can add mass to a glacier faster than warming melts it at lower elevations. The glacier accumulates snow at its top faster than it loses ice at its bottom, and the result is advance, the glacier growing even as the world warms around it. These advances are usually temporary, lasting only until precipitation patterns shift again, or until warming accelerates beyond what snowfall can compensate for. But they remind us that climate is complex, that local conditions matter, that glaciers respond to many variables simultaneously. Even in a warming world, reversals are possible. Short cold periods can regrow glaciers, and temporary reversals can occur when climate briefly shifts toward cooler, wetter conditions. A few years or decades of increased snowfall and reduced melting can cause a glacier to thicken and advance, partially recovering ice lost during previous warm periods. These recoveries are usually modest and temporary, but they demonstrate that glacier retreat isn't always smooth and linear. The glacier can pause, stabilize, even grow for a time before resuming its longer retreat. Climate variability creates these fluctuations, brief respites in a longer trend, moments when the glacier catches its breath before continuing its slow withdrawal up the valley. As glaciers retreat, they reveal landscapes that have been hidden for enormous spans of time. Glacier retreat exposes untouched landscapes, land emerging after thousands of years beneath ice. These newly exposed areas are like time capsules, preserving soil, rock, and sometimes even organic material from before the glacier advanced. The land emerges raw and fresh, scraped clean by ice, ready to be colonized by plants and animals, ready to begin the slow process of soil formation and ecosystem development. Scientists can study these landscapes to understand what existed before the ice, to see how quickly ecosystems recover, to watch succession happen in real time as life returns to land that has been frozen and barren for millennia. Sometimes, what emerges from beneath retreating ice is even more remarkable. Entire ecosystems can be buried intact, plants and animals frozen in place when glaciers advanced rapidly thousands of years ago. Trees that were growing when the ice came still stand, now emerging from melting ice, perfectly preserved. They were still solid enough to be dated precisely, their positions showing exactly where the tree leans stood before the glacier overwhelmed it. Mosses and lichens emerge from the ice still green, still containing intact cells, frozen so quickly and so completely that they look as if they could resume growing. Animals, insects, birds, even occasionally larger mammals, emerge preserved, offering glimpses into ecosystems that vanished beneath ice long ago. The glacier has kept these treasures safe, frozen in time, waiting for warming to release them back into a world that has changed beyond recognition. The changes happening to glaciers today carry important messages for humanity's future. Studying glaciers predicts future water shortages, their decline signaling risk for millions of people who depend on glacial meltwater. As glaciers shrink, they initially provide more water. Increased melting means increased river flow. But this bounty is temporary, a one-time dividend as the glacier spends down its frozen capital. Eventually, the glacier becomes so small that it provides less water each year, and finally, when it disappears entirely, the late summer water it once supplied vanishes too. Many regions are approaching or have already passed the point of maximum glacier melt, meaning water supplies will decline from here forward unless new sources are found. The glacier is like a battery, slowly discharging, and we can predict when that battery will run out by studying how fast the ice is disappearing. Perhaps most importantly, glaciers serve as archives and warnings. Glaciers reveal how fast Earth can change, with ice recording sudden climate shifts that happened in the past. The ice cores we discussed earlier show that Earth's climate has sometimes changed with startling speed. Temperature shifts of several degrees in just years or decades, precipitation patterns completely reorganizing, entire climate zones shifting hundreds of miles in a generation. These rapid changes happened naturally in the past, triggered by complex interactions between ice sheets, oceans, and atmosphere. They remind us that climate isn't always gradual and predictable, that tipping points exist, that the Earth system can shift suddenly from one state to another. The glaciers remember these shifts, preserve evidence of them, warn us that such changes are possible. What happened before can happen again. Let these thoughts about the future settle gently into your consciousness, not as sources of anxiety but as quiet acknowledgments of change, of uncertainty, of the complex world we inhabit. The future is always uncertain, for glaciers and for everything else, but uncertainty need not mean fear. It simply means change, transformation, the ongoing evolution of our planet and everything on it. You are safe here, now, in this moment, comfortable and relaxed. The future will unfold as it will, and you will meet it when it arrives. For now, simply rest, breathe, and let yourself sink deeper into peaceful sleep, like ice settling into ancient layers, compressed by time, held safe in stillness. As we approach the end of our journey through the world of glaciers, let yourself settle into the deepest relaxation you've felt tonight. We've traveled far together, through ice and time, and now we arrive at some final wonders, stunners that remind us just how extraordinary these frozen giants truly are. Let your breathing slow even further, your body heavy and completely at ease, as we explore these last marvels. Glaciers are not silent. They speak, though in voices that are often startling and strange. Glaciers can trigger icequakes, with cracking ice causing booming sounds that echo across frozen landscapes like thunder. These icequakes happen when stress within the ice exceeds the ice's ability to bend and flex, causing sudden fractures that release energy as sound and seismic waves. The ice breaks with explosive force, the crack propagating through the glacier in seconds, and the sound can be heard for miles. Sharp reports like gunfire, deep booms like distant artillery, long groaning sounds as the ice adjusts and settles. Scientists can detect these icequakes with seismometers, mapping the internal stresses of glaciers by listening to them break. The glacier is alive with sound, cracking and booming, singing its slow song of motion and stress. But icequakes aren't the only sounds glaciers make. Underwater glacier melting creates eerie sounds that scientists have begun calling ice singing. When ice meets ocean water, the melting process creates a symphony of noises: crackling, popping, fizzing sounds as air trapped in the ice for thousands of years is released into the water. High-pressure pockets of ancient atmosphere escape with sounds like champagne bubbles, but stranger, more complex. Hydrophones, underwater microphones, placed near glacier fronts record these sounds, haunting and beautiful, the voice of ice dissolving into water, singing its swan song as it returns to liquid form. The recordings sound almost musical, like wind chimes or distant bells, the glacier serenading its own transformation from solid to liquid. The sheer magnitude of some ice formations defies easy comprehension. Antarctic ice can exceed 4 kilometers thick. Some ice sheets are literally miles deep. Imagine standing on the surface of the Antarctic ice sheet and looking down, knowing that beneath your feet lies ice stacked almost 3 miles thick, layer upon layer of compacted snow from hundreds of thousands of years, pressing down with incomprehensible weight. At the bottom of this ice, near the bedrock, the pressure is so immense that ice exists in strange states, neither fully solid nor fully liquid, warmed by geothermal heat and compressed by the weight of miles of ice above. The deepest ice in Antarctica is over 800,000 years old, formed before modern humans existed, before Neanderthals, before our species had evolved. Standing on that ice, you stand atop nearly 1 million years of frozen history. In some places, ice and fire exist in the most dramatic proximity. Some glaciers sit atop volcanoes, with Iceland hosting many spectacular examples of this unlikely pairing. These glaciers cover active volcanic systems, ice kilometers thick sitting directly above chambers of molten rock. When these volcanoes erupt, they melt their overlying ice from below, creating sudden, catastrophic floods, the Jokulhlaups we discussed earlier, that can be larger than any river on Earth. The contrast is almost incomprehensible. Ice and lava, the coldest and hottest substances on Earth's surface, existing in the same place, the glacier trying to cool the volcano trying to melt the glacier, locked in an eternal struggle. Sometimes the eruption melts through the ice entirely, creating spectacular scenes of lava fountains surrounded by ice walls, fire and ice meeting in explosive union. The stability of Antarctica's ice depends on delicate balances that we're only beginning to understand. Glaciers help stabilize Antarctic ice shelves, but when glacier speed increases, this stabilization weakens. Ice shelves, the floating extensions of glaciers that spread across the ocean, act like buttresses, holding back the glaciers behind them. When these shelves are stable, they slow the glaciers, reducing the rate at which ice flows into the ocean. But when glaciers speed up, they can destabilize the shelves, thinning them, creating rifts and fractures. The shelf can weaken and eventually collapse, removing the buttress effect and allowing the glaciers behind to accelerate dramatically. This is one of the great concerns about Antarctic ice. That warming could trigger a cascade of shelf collapse and glacier acceleration that would be difficult or impossible to reverse. Our ability to monitor these changes has become remarkably sophisticated. Satellites monitor glacier movement with extreme precision, tracking changes with accuracy measured in inches across distances of thousands of miles. Using radar and laser altimetry, satellites can measure ice sheet thickness, glacier flow speed, and surface elevation changes, building detailed pictures of how glaciers are evolving over time. Scientists can detect acceleration or slowdown in glacial flow, measure exactly how much ice is being lost each year, even predict where future changes are likely to occur. The glaciers are being watched from space with unblinking eyes, every shift and change recorded, analyzed, understood. We live in an age where ice that would have been completely inaccessible just decades ago is now monitored continuously from orbit. The power of ice over long timescales extends even to objects we think of as hard and permanent. Glaciers can bend metal instruments through slow, patient pressure that deforms even steel. Research equipment left on or in glaciers, metal poles, instrument casings, structural supports, gradually bends and warps as the ice flows around and through it. What seems solid and permanent to us is malleable to the glacier, which has time enough to reshape anything. The ice presses, slowly but with immense force, and metal that would resist any human effort to bend it gradually curves, twists, deforms. Scientists retrieving instruments from glaciers sometimes find them bent into curves or spirals, transformed by ice that never rushed, never forced, but simply applied pressure patiently until the metal yielded. Throughout history, advancing glaciers have demonstrated their power over human works. Glaciers can override towns and roads, with human structures destroyed beneath advancing ice. In periods of glacial advance, like the Little Ice Age that lasted from roughly the 14th to 19th centuries, glaciers in the Alps and other mountain ranges advanced down valleys, overriding farms, destroying villages, burying infrastructure beneath ice. Stone walls and buildings that had stood for centuries were crushed or swept aside. Roads and bridges vanished beneath advancing ice fronts. When the glaciers finally retreated, the ruins sometimes emerged, offering poignant reminders of human vulnerability in the face of glacial power. Today, as glaciers retreat, they occasionally reveal the remains of these overwhelmed structures, buildings and walls emerging from ice that held them for centuries. Even underground, glaciers exert influence in ways both subtle and profound. Glaciers redirect underground water, their weight and presence reshaping aquifers beneath the surface. The pressure of ice overhead forces groundwater into new pathways, blocking some channels and opening others. When glaciers retreat, these underground drainage patterns shift again, sometimes leaving communities that depended on certain springs or wells without water as the aquifers reorganize. The glacier's influence extends not just across the surface landscape but deep into the bedrock below, reaching down to reshape how water flows through underground channels and porous rock. And finally, we come full circle to the role glaciers have played in human understanding itself. Glaciers inspired early geology science, helping scientists explain Earth's past in ways that revolutionized our understanding of the planet. In the 19th century, the theory of ice ages, the idea that glaciers had once covered much larger areas than they do today, was controversial and revolutionary. But evidence accumulated, erratic boulders far from their source rock, U-shaped valleys in regions with no current glaciers, scratched and polished bedrock, all pointing to ice where no ice now existed. The theory of glaciation helped establish that Earth had a dynamic history, that climate had changed dramatically in the past, that the world we see today is just one snapshot in an ever-changing story. Glaciers taught us that the Earth has a history, that it changes, that the present is not eternal. They were teachers, helping humanity understand geological time, climate change, and the dynamic nature of our planet. And so we end where we began, with these ancient giants, these sculptors of landscapes, these archives of time. Let all the images from tonight drift through your mind one last time. Ice flowing like slow rivers, valleys carved into U-shapes, blue light glowing in ancient ice, microorganisms surviving in frozen darkness, rivers flowing inside glaciers, land rising as ice melts, meteorites preserved on white ice, jokolops roaring down valleys, ice singing as it melts into the sea. The glaciers have told you their stories, shared their secrets, revealed their power and their vulnerability. They have carried you through this night, and now they release you gently into sleep, into dreams, into the peaceful darkness that awaits. Let yourself go completely now, heavy as ice, still as frozen water, patient as a glacier that has all the time in the world. Sleep now, deeply and completely, held safely by the night, by comfort, by the ancient, patient presence of ice that has watched over our world for ages beyond counting. As you rest in the deepest comfort now, your body completely relaxed, your mind drifting in that peaceful space between waking and sleep, let us explore these final revelations about glaciers, the last pieces of this frozen puzzle, the concluding notes of ice's great symphony. Breathe slowly, deeply, and let these final wonders wash over you like waves of calm. We've spoken of glaciers melting from below, but the ocean's role in this process is particularly dramatic and concerning. Glaciers can melt from ocean heat below, with warm seawater destabilizing them in ways that are difficult to observe and harder still to predict. When glaciers flow into the ocean, they don't just melt from their exposed surfaces. Warm ocean currents circulate beneath them, eating away at their undersides, thinning them from below, creating instabilities that can lead to sudden collapse. The water doesn't need to be particularly warm. Even ocean water that's just a few degrees above freezing can melt ice rapidly when it circulates efficiently beneath a glacier. This underwater melting is one of the primary ways Antarctic and Greenland glaciers are losing mass, the ocean silently dissolving ice from below while satellites watch the surface, the hidden erosion happening in darkness beneath hundreds of feet of ice and water. The thickness of some glaciers challenges imagination. Some glaciers are thousands of meters thick, with Antarctica holding the deepest ice on Earth. We mentioned earlier that Antarctic ice can exceed 4 kilometers in depth, but it bears repeating because the scale is so difficult to grasp. Picture a stack of ice more than 2 miles high, pressing down with such force that the bottom layers are warmed to their melting point by pressure alone. This ice is so thick that radio waves can barely penetrate it, so heavy that it has pressed the bedrock beneath it deep below sea level. Standing on the surface of the thickest Antarctic ice, you stand atop a frozen column that extends downward further than the deepest ocean trenches extend below the sea surface. The glacier beneath your feet is deeper than mountains are tall. Within all this ice lies another secret, another role that glaciers play in Earth's systems. Glaciers can store greenhouse gases, with carbon dioxide, methane, and other gases remaining trapped for millennia in tiny bubbles within the ice. We've discussed how ice cores preserve ancient air, but it's worth reflecting on what this means. The glacier is holding gases that would otherwise be in the atmosphere, sequestering them in frozen suspension. When ice melts, these gases are released back into the atmosphere, though in quantities too small to significantly affect modern climate. But the fact that ice can trap and hold gases for hundreds of thousands of years speaks to its role as more than just frozen water. It's a storage medium, a vault, a time capsule that holds not just information about the past but actual samples of the past itself, ancient air that last flowed freely when the world was utterly different. On a more immediate scale, glaciers shape the weather around them in tangible ways. Glaciers influence local weather systems, with ice altering wind and temperature patterns in their vicinity. The cold air flowing off glaciers creates microclimates, local weather patterns distinct from surrounding areas. Temperatures near glaciers are cooler, humidity levels different, wind patterns modified by the presence of ice. In some regions, entire agricultural zones are influenced by nearby glaciers. Vineyards that produce distinctive wines because of cool glacier winds, valleys that receive more or less precipitation because of how the ice influences air currents. The glacier reaches out beyond its physical boundaries, touching the weather, shaping the climate of the land around it. The rhythm of glaciers is more complex than simple constant flow. Surprisingly, some glaciers move faster at night when temperatures drop, because internal pressure changes affect flow in counterintuitive ways. During the day, surface melting creates water that drains down into the glacier, sometimes temporarily relieving pressure or changing the ice's internal structure. At night, when melting stops, pressure builds differently, and some glaciers respond by flowing faster. Scientists monitoring glaciers with GPS instruments have observed this daily rhythm. Speed increasing as the sun sets, decreasing again after dawn, the glacier pulsing with a 24-hour cycle tied to the sun's daily journey across the sky. The patient power of ice to reshape rock continues as long as ice flows. Glaciers grind mountains down grain by grain, with erosion happening slowly but relentlessly across geological time. Each day, each year, tiny fragments of rock are plucked from mountainsides, ground from valley floors, scraped from bedrock beneath flowing ice. The quantities seem insignificant, fractions of an inch per year, perhaps, but multiply that by thousands of years, by millions of years, and entire mountain ranges are reduced to rubble, carried away by ice grain by grain. The Himalayas, the Alps, the Rockies, all are being slowly dismantled by the glaciers that crown them, ground down particle by particle in a process so slow that a human lifetime captures barely a moment of it, yet so persistent that it reshapes continents given enough time. We've touched on this before, but it merits one final reflection. ice sheets once connected continents in ways that fundamentally shaped human history. These vast expanses of ice enabled human migration by locking up so much water that sea levels dropped dramatically, exposing land bridges between landmasses that are now separated by ocean. Our species spread across the world by walking on land that no longer exists, crossing from continent to continent on ground that now lies beneath hundreds of feet of seawater. The glaciers made these crossings possible, created the pathways, opened the doors through which humanity dispersed to every corner of the globe. When the ice melted and the bridges drowned, populations were separated, diverged, developed distinct cultures and languages. The pattern of human diversity across the planet bears the fingerprints of ancient ice, of land bridges that rose and fell with the growth and retreat of glaciers. As glaciers continue to retreat in our warming world, they reveal landscapes that hold a special kind of wonder. Glacier retreat exposes land unseen by humans, some surfaces emerging for the first time in recorded history, or even for the first time since modern humans existed. Rock that was covered by ice before writing was invented, before agriculture, before civilization, now sees sunlight for the first time in 10,000 years or more. Scientists studying these newly exposed landscapes are literally the first humans to ever see them, the first to touch rock that has been hidden since our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. It's a strange privilege of our warming age, to witness the unveiling of landscapes that have been secret since deep antiquity, to be present for revelations that happen only once, as ice that has persisted for millennia finally melts away. The changes happening to glaciers today carry profound significance for understanding our planet's climate. Glaciers are key indicators of climate change because they respond quickly and visibly to warming. While other climate indicators, ocean temperature, atmospheric composition, ecosystem changes, can be subtle or difficult to observe directly, glaciers provide dramatic, undeniable evidence of change. A glacier that existed for thousands of years can disappear within a human lifetime. Ice that persisted through all of recorded history can melt away in decades. Glaciers integrate climate over years and decades, responding to sustained trends rather than individual weather events, making them reliable indicators of genuine climate change rather than simple variability. When glaciers around the world simultaneously retreat, when ice that has been stable for centuries begins to melt, we can be certain that something fundamental is changing. The glaciers are messengers, bearing news of planetary transformation. And this brings us to our final thought, the culmination of everything we've explored tonight. The future of glaciers will shape the future of humanity in ways both obvious and subtle. Water supplies for billions of people depend on glacial meltwater. Sea levels for every coastal city and nation depend on how much ice remains frozen on land. Climate patterns across the entire planet depend partly on the cooling effect of ice reflecting sunlight. The stability of mountain slopes, the flow of rivers, the fertility of soils, the locations of harbors, the routes of trade, the availability of fresh water. All of these have been influenced by glaciers in the past and will continue to be influenced by them in the future. As glaciers shrink, humanity must adapt to a world with less ice, less reliable water supplies, higher sea levels, and altered weather patterns. The choices we make in coming years and decades will determine how much ice remains, how quickly it melts, how severe the changes will be. The future of glaciers and the future of human civilization are intertwined, bound together in ways we're only beginning to fully comprehend. So we leave the glaciers now, these ancient giants, these sculptors and archives, these regulators and indicators. They have shared their stories with you through this long night, carried you through time and space, from the deepest ice of Antarctica to the heights of mountain peaks, from ancient migrations to uncertain futures. They have been patient teachers, and you have been a patient listener. As you drift now into the deepest sleep, let the glaciers fade gently from your conscious mind, their images and stories settling into memory, becoming part of you in subtle ways. Feel the coolness of ice, the patience of ages, the slow certainty of processes that unfold across millennia. Let that patience fill you now, that certainty, that timeless quality that says there is no rush, no urgency, nothing that cannot wait until morning. The glaciers flow on in darkness and in light, in summer and in winter, unceasing and patient. And you, too, can rest with that same patience, that same peace. Sleep now, deeply and completely, held safely by the night, by warmth and comfort, by the knowledge that the world continues its ancient rhythms while you rest. The ice remembers everything and forgets nothing, and it will keep its vigil while you sleep. Let go now, completely, and drift into dreams as old as ice and as endless as time. Sleep well, and may your rest be as deep and peaceful as the ancient heart of a glacier, still and cold and perfectly, beautifully calm. Rest well, and let the glaciers keep watch while you dream.